You're not here by accident. You didn't click this by chance. Something in you has been pulling at the edges, whispers in your dreams, flashes of a place you've never been, a quiet voice saying, "There's more." And there is. Today, you're going to hear something that feels like it was meant just for you. A message, a map, a memory that hasn't happened yet but soon will. Stay with me, Virgo, because by the end of this, you'll understand why you felt out of place your whole life, and more importantly, you'll know, Virgo. Let's be honest, there's been something stirring inside you for a while now. It's not panic, not chaos, not even sadness. It's a quiet sense of misalignment, like your soul is whispering, "This isn't quite it." You've done the work. You've followed the rules. You've checked the boxes that were supposed to lead to fulfillment. And yet, here you are, still searching, still wondering if you've settled for a life that was never really meant for you in the first place. That subtle ache you carry, it's not failure. It's your spirit refusing to accept a life that doesn't match the frequency of your soul. That restlessness you feel late at night. When everything else seems quiet and stable, that's your intuition calling out. You're not ungrateful. You're aware, deep down, that there's more. Not more in the sense of ambition or accumulation, but more in terms of connection, meaning, alignment. You see, people like you Virgos weren't designed to just make it through. You were built for precision, for purpose, for impact. And when you're living in an environment that doesn't recognize that, something inside you starts to dim. You start to shrink to fit spaces that were never meant for your expansion. You start questioning yourself. Maybe I'm too sensitive. Maybe I'm too intense. Maybe I expect too much. But what if you're not too much? What if you've just been in the wrong place all along? The problem isn't you, it's the mismatch between your soul's blueprint and the surroundings you've been trying to adapt to. It's like trying to plant a wildflower in a pot made for succulents. The flower isn't wrong. The soil is. The container is. And the longer you stay in the wrong environment, the more you start to lose touch with the original vibrancy you were born with. This isn't just philosophy, it's biology. Studies show that even plants, when placed in low-stimulus environments or in poor lighting, begin to wilt. But once they're moved to a space with the right nutrients, sunlight, and room to grow, they flourish. Humans are no different. When you are seen, heard, understood, and placed in the right energetic setting, you don't just survive, you thrive. And let's talk about the emotional toll of pretending to belong somewhere you don't. Smiling when you're exhausted. Saying I'm fine when something in your chest is tightening. Going through the motions when your inner world is screaming for more. That kind of life chips away at your soul, day by day, moment by moment. And the scariest part, you become good at it. You become so good at surviving that you forget what it feels like to truly live. But what if that changes? What if this right now is your first step out of that numbness? What if there's a version of you that feels at home, fully? For the first time in your life, that's what this message is about. That's what the energy around you is starting to prepare you for. Not a new task, not a new burden, but a place, a frequency, a space where you don't have to explain yourself, where your sensitivity becomes strength, where your perfectionism becomes purpose, and where your deepest longing finally finds a place to rest. You're not broken, you're not lost, you're just being summoned. And sometimes, the discomfort is the invitation. Let's talk about this place we keep referring to. Because it's easy to think it's just a city or a job or a physical house on a map. But what if I told you that the place God has prepared for you is more than geography? What if it's a frequency, a way of living, a space where everything about you makes sense? That place isn't just where you go, it's where you become. It's where your inner world finally matches your outer environment. It's where you breathe and realize you've been holding your breath for. And this place, it's not hypothetical. It exists. For some people, it might be Bali. For others, it's a small mountain town no one's ever heard of. Sometimes, it's not even far away. It might be down the street, hidden in plain sight, waiting for you to look at it differently. It might be your same job, but under new leadership, or your same house, but lived in with new clarity and intention. The transformation isn't always about distance. It's about resonance. When you're in the right place, your energy shifts. You don't have to fight to be seen. You don't have to explain your worth. You're not exhausted from trying to fit in. The environment calls forth the best in you, your vision, your discipline, your depth, and suddenly, the things that made you feel different or misunderstood become the exact things that are celebrated. That's how you know you've arrived. Not because it's perfect or without challenge, but because you feel aligned, grounded, purposeful. Now, let's bring this closer to you. Be honest, have you felt pulled toward a certain place lately? Maybe a city you keep seeing in dreams. A city that makes your heart beat faster even though you've never been there. Or a conversation you had that felt oddly meaningful, like someone was pointing you somewhere without even realizing it. These are not random, they're invitations, clues. The universe doesn't shout, it whispers. And it whispers through repetition, through feeling, through resonance. Sometimes, you see the name of a city 3 times in a week. Sometimes, you hear someone mention a place that lights something up in you. You dismiss it at first, maybe you laugh. But then it comes again, in a book, in a song, on a license plate, and you begin to wonder, what if it's not just coincidence? What if that place is calling me? What if that's where I belong? Let me pause here and ask you directly if you've been having a dream that keeps looping, or a place that you can't stop thinking about, or a conversation that opened a door in your mind. Drop the name of that place in the comments right now. That's not just a place. That's your soul trying to show you something. Don't ignore the sign. Don't wait for it to make sense logically. The soul speaks in symbols before it delivers clarity. Leave that place in the comments, and let's see if there's something deep. Because here's the truth, we don't stumble into alignment by accident. We respond to signals. We follow the breadcrumbs. That's how transformation begins. It's rarely loud. It's never convenient. But it always begins the same way, with a subtle nudge you can't shake. So Virgo, listen to that whisper. Lean into the mystery. The place that's calling you. It holds the next version of you, the you who is no longer shrinking to fit, no longer second-guessing every step, no longer carrying a life that's 2 sizes too small. That you is waiting. And it begins with something as simple as saying, I feel drawn there. And I'm finally ready to find out why. Let's get something straight. God doesn't design people like you without a reason. Your sensitivity, your eye for detail, your endless drive to get things just right. That's not random. That's not a flaw. It's a blueprint. A divine blueprint for a specific place, a specific mission, a specific impact that only you can make. You weren't made to blend in. You weren't made to be neutral, to be quiet, to be fine with good enough. You were made to bring precision to places of chaos, clarity to situations that confuse others, order to the disorganized. That's why being in the wrong environment feels like suffocating. It's not just uncomfortable, it's misaligned. Have you ever noticed how drained you get when you're around people who don't value what you bring? When your ideas are brushed off? When your standards are labeled as too much? That's not just rejection, it's a sign. It's a spiritual alert that says, this isn't your place. The gifts inside of you are looking for a home, and the right place, it's looking for you, too. In the right environment, your attention to detail becomes a superpower. Your intuition becomes strategy. Your high standards become the reason everything around you rises. People will seek your insight, not resent it. You'll feel energized by collaboration, not exhausted by compromise. And most importantly, you'll stop questioning whether your intensity is a burden and start seeing it as the gift it's always been. Think about this. When a musician is born with perfect pitch, do we ask them to play out of tune to fit in? No. We build rooms with acoustics that match their ability. That's what your life has been preparing you for, a space that was built with your specific gifts in mind. A place where your presence makes things better, stronger, clearer. And the beautiful part is, that place is already aligning itself with your energy. You don't have to force it. You just have to stop hiding your light in places that are too dim to hold it. You're not too much. You're just not meant to live small. The world doesn't need you to tone it down. It needs you to show up fully. Because somewhere, someone is praying for exactly the kind of clarity, stability, and wisdom you've been carrying in silence. Let that sink in. The world doesn't need you to tone it down. It needs you to show up fully. Because somewhere, someone is praying for exactly the kind of clarity, stability, and wisdom you've been carrying in silence. Let that sink in. Every gift you've been given was never meant to be hidden. It was meant to build something, heal something, solve something. And the longer you pretend to be okay in places that don't see your worth, the further you drift from the life you were actually meant to live. You weren't just born with high standards, you were born to raise the standards of everything around you. You're not supposed to blend into mediocrity. You're supposed to lift people out of it. That's the role of a Virgo when they're living in the right environment. They don't just fit in, they elevate. So, let me ask you, what have you been calling security that's actually just stagnation? What have you been holding on to because it's predictable, not because it's purposeful? You don't need another sign. You don't need more time. You need to listen to the truth you've been trying to ignore. The truth that whispers there's something greater waiting, but you have to be brave enough to go get it. The doorway to transformation isn't always lit. Sometimes it's dark and unfamiliar. But the second you step through it, your spirit starts to breathe again. And that breath, that's the beginning of everything new. The doorway to transformation isn't always lit. Sometimes it's dark and unfamiliar. But the second you step through it, your spirit starts to breathe again. And that breath, that's the beginning of everything new. The doorway to transformation isn't always lit. Sometimes it's dark and unfamiliar. But the second you step through it, your spirit starts to breathe again. And that breath, that's the beginning of everything new. Here's something to remember: the version of you that will thrive in your next season cannot survive in your current comfort zone. They need different conditions, new challenges, fresh energy, and bolder decisions. Every time you choose growth over comfort, you get one step closer to the life you were always meant to live. That's how destiny rewards the brave. That's how the shift begins from safety to significance. Let's take a moment to break this down even further. Virgo. Because not every Virgo is going to experience this shift in the same way. The timing of your birth carries nuances, and those nuances shape how your awakening unfolds. If you were born at the very beginning of Virgo season, chances are this transformation will arrive through your work. You're someone who takes pride in what you do, who sees value in being of service. But lately, you might have started questioning whether your current path truly allows you to make the kind of impact you know you're capable of. You may start to feel an unexpected pull, a job opportunity, a change in industry, or even a creative project that doesn't match your past, but aligns perfectly with your soul. Follow that curiosity. That's not distraction, that's divine redirection. Now, if you were born in the middle of Virgo season, your shift is going to show up through people. A conversation that sticks with you, a person who challenges the way you see yourself, a mentor or partner who shows up seemingly out of nowhere and opens doors to an entirely new version of reality. Your awakening won't come through effort, it will come through connection. Be open to new relationships that don't fit your usual pattern. Be willing to let someone guide you towards something you never knew you needed. And if your birthday falls toward the end of Virgo season, your transformation is going to happen internally. This isn't about changing your zip code or job title. It's about changing the way you see. It's about a shift in your perception so powerful that even the same surroundings begin to feel completely different. You'll start to notice new opportunities where you once saw limitations. You'll begin to carry yourself differently, not because the world changed, but because you did. You'll realize that the place you've been searching for has been with you all along, waiting for you to see it with new eyes. The key is this: no matter when you were born in the Virgo cycle, the shift is coming, but the delivery method will vary. And the more aware you are of how it's likely to arrive, the more prepared you'll be to say yes when it does. Whatever your moment looks like, whether it's a job, a person, or an inner clarity, don't second guess it. Lean in. Say yes. Let it shape you. You'll thank yourself later. Whatever your moment looks like, whether it's a job, a person, or an inner clarity, don't second guess it. Lean in. Say yes. Let it shape you. You'll thank yourself later. Whatever your moment looks like, whether it's a job, a person, or an inner clarity, don't second guess it. Lean in. Say yes. Let it shape you. You'll thank yourself later. Because here's the truth: alignment doesn't just show up, it arrives when you're finally ready to see things differently. For some, that means walking away from what they've mastered. For others, it means trusting a stranger who feels oddly familiar. And for many, it means finally turning inward and listening to the voice they've silenced for far too long. Wherever your shift begins, honor it. That moment is sacred. Let's be honest, most of the time, we don't recognize the signs until we look back. We say things like, "Wow, that dream was trying to tell me something," or "That conversation was more important than I realized." The signs are rarely dramatic. They're subtle, quiet, repetitive, but once you start connecting the dots, you'll see they've been guiding you all along. Maybe it was a city name that kept popping up everywhere on social media, in books, in the middle of conversations with strangers. Maybe you had a dream that left you waking up with your heart pounding, and you can't explain why. Or maybe it's a place you visited once and haven't been able to stop thinking about since. These aren't accidents. They're divine breadcrumbs. And if you're the type who needs confirmation, well, this is it. The fact that you're hearing these words right now is not random. You didn't stumble into this message. You were led here because the universe always prepares us before it shifts us. It always sends the signs before it opens the doors. The question is, are you paying attention? And here's the thing, you, Virgo, are wired to notice what others miss. That's one of your spiritual gifts. But when you're stuck in survival mode, your gift gets muted. Your awareness dulls. You start doubting what you know in your gut to be true. That's why it's so important to slow down, tune in, and look again. Because what you think is just a coincidence might be the beginning of your next chapter. Now let's talk about timing, because none of this matters if we don't understand divine timing. See, alignment doesn't happen when we force it. It happens when preparation meets opportunity. And guess what? You're in that window right now. That sacred space where everything you've experienced, every loss, every lesson, every delay was building toward this moment. You've probably felt the energy shifting. You might be more restless lately, more emotional, more aware that something is changing but not quite sure what. That's how it starts. You're not broken. You're not confused. You're being recalibrated. Your soul is preparing to step into something that your logic hasn't caught up to yet. Think of it like this: when you're about to move into a new home, you start packing. Things feel messy, disorganized, like everything's in transition. That's exactly what's happening energetically. You're packing up the version of you that doesn't fit anymore. And soon, you'll step into the version that does. The universe has already begun shifting the pieces into place. People are being aligned, conversations are being set up, opportunities are being wrapped in what might look like disruption. Don't resist it. Don't label it as chaos when it might just be change. Don't let fear keep you rooted in a reality that's already expired. So take a breath. Look again. That dream, that city, that gut feeling, it's not random. It's an invitation. The door may not be wide open yet, but the light is on. And all you have to do is knock. You're not late. You're right on time. When your soul is ready, it will call you through dreams, people, even delays that feel frustrating. But nothing is wasted. Every moment is part of the map. And now, you're standing at the edge of what could be your greatest leap yet. There's no perfect moment to leap. There's just the moment you decide that the fear of staying stuck is louder than the fear of moving forward. And once you make that decision, the road begins to rise to meet you. Support shows up. Energy clears. The signs become unmistakable. You don't have to know how the whole journey unfolds. You just have to trust the next step and take it. Here's the truth that hits the hardest. Virgo, you've been giving the most sacred parts of yourself your focus, your effort, your brilliance to situations that don't deserve it. You've been using your precision to polish things that were never meant to shine. You've been rearranging broken pieces, trying to build something beautiful in places that never had the capacity to hold your light. That ends now. This isn't about blame. It's about clarity. It's about recognizing that you've outgrown spaces that once felt like home. You've been watering dead soil, hoping something might bloom. You've been dimming your brilliance to make others comfortable. But what has that really given you? Burnout, resentment, that quiet ache in your chest that says, this can't be it. You weren't made to maintain. You were made to build, to inspire, to elevate. That's why you feel so heavy in spaces where your gifts go unseen. Your energy wasn't designed for survival. It was designed for significance. And that means your environment needs to match your frequency. The problem is, you've become so good at adapting. You've forgotten what it feels like to be in alignment. You've been praised for your resilience when what you really needed was permission to leave. You've been clapped for enduring when your soul was screaming for more. And somewhere along the way, you convinced yourself that being strong meant staying where you're unfulfilled. But here's a radical thought. What if true strength is walking away from what no longer fits? What if you've already paid your dues, and the next step is not proving your worth but protecting it? Let this be your reminder. You don't have to keep giving your best to people, places, and patterns that keep showing you they can't meet you where you are. You don't have to keep explaining yourself to those committed to misunderstanding you. You don't need to fit in. You need to break free. Because when you finally stop settling, the right place will find you, and it won't ask you to shrink. It will ask you to shine. That's how you know it's the real thing. When you start honoring your own energy, everything shifts. Doors close faster. The right ones open wider. And your soul, your tired, underestimated, over-functioning soul finally gets to exhale. When you start honoring your own energy, everything shifts. Doors close faster. The right ones open wider. And your soul, your tired, underestimated, over-functioning soul finally gets to exhale. When you start honoring your own energy, everything shifts. Doors close faster. The right ones open wider. And your soul, your tired, underestimated, over-functioning soul finally gets to exhale. When you start honoring your own energy, everything shifts. Doors close faster. The right ones open wider, and your soul, your tired, underestimated, over-functioning soul finally gets to exhale. You're allowed to pivot. You're allowed to want more. You're allowed to stop explaining why your heart is no longer in a space it once tolerated. That's not weakness, it's growth. That's not abandonment, it's self-respect. And the moment you stop apologizing for evolving is the moment the universe starts responding in kind. So here we are, Virgo at the edge of something new. You've walked through discomfort, you've faced truth, and now you're standing at the threshold of a life that finally matches the depth of your spirit. Maybe nothing around you has changed yet, but inside everything is shifting, and that's where real transformation begins. You've outgrown old patterns. You've outlived old expectations. And even if you can't see the full picture yet, you can feel it. Something is waiting on the other side of this choice. Something truer. Something freer. The place that's been prepared for you isn't perfect, but it's right. Right for your energy. Right for your voice. Right for your growth. And this next part, it's personal. Because no one can walk through that door for you. No one else knows the calling that's been echoing in your chest. But if you felt seen in this message, if something in you whispered yes while you listened, then that's your confirmation. Leave a comment. Share what place has been showing up in your dreams. Name the city, the landscape, the memory. You never know, your story might be the sign someone else has been waiting for too. And if you want to keep walking this journey together, subscribe and turn on notifications, because this is just the beginning. The road ahead is sacred, and you're finally ready to walk it fully awake. You were never meant to stay hidden. You were always meant to be found. And now, you are. Sometimes, one brave step is all it takes to shift everything. Just one moment of courage can open the door to a chapter you never imagined. This is that moment. Take it. Sometimes, one brave step is all it takes to shift everything. Just one moment of courage can open the door to a chapter you never imagined. This is that moment. Take it. You are the proof that growth doesn't always look loud. Sometimes it's quiet, internal, and deeply personal. But when you choose to follow the signs, even when they don't make sense, that's when alignment finds you. That's when grace meets you right where you are and shows you who you've been becoming all along.